Incarceration or modern day slavery? Let me ask you a question. What comes to mind when you hear free or cheap labor? Now, what about if the labor is against the will of the laborer? What terms come into your mind when you hear about people living in poor conditions and being treated less than fairly by their employer? In modern society, all those things are often attributed to sweatshops, which we view as an inhumane act that only occurs in foreign countries. And yet it's happening every day in our very own backyard, so are incarcerated. I'm going to tell you about how the industrial prison complex works, who's benefiting from it, and who the victims of it are. The industrial prison complex basically is the rapid expansion of the U.S. inmate population due to the political influence of private prison companies and the businesses that supply goods and services to prison agencies. In 1995, a group named ALEC drafted the Prison Industries Act, which basically allows the employment of inmate labor in private manufacturing of products as long as inmates are paid decent wages. However, deductions for housing and incarceration can be implemented in which most of their wages go to the expanding of the industry. Investigative journalist Eric Schlosser wrote, "The lure of big money is corrupting the nation's criminal justice system, replacing the notions of safety and public service with the drive for higher profits." Schlosser Eric, the prison industrial complex, with his article on The Atlantic. These companies are basically interested in the expansion of the prison system, being that their prosperity is based on the number of inmates housed. The American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, is a group composed of corporate lobbyists and state legislatures that vote on model bills that in the end will alter our rights while benefiting corporations. Then the participating legislators take the proposals and introduce them as their own without disclosing the corporations involved. ALEC has played a major role in creating some of the toughest sentencing laws to date, such as the Three Strikes Law, the Truth in Sentencing Law, to ensure a growing prison population. While the United States represents about 4.4% of the world's population, it houses around 22% of the world's prisoners. United States incarceration rate from Wikipedia. With that growing population, companies that provide the food make a buck, so do the ones that provide the health care and the beds. And of course, the ones that are working the inmates through labor and good production. ALEC has also passed laws for for-profit prisons, benefiting two of their major sponsors, the Corrections Corporation of America and GEO Group. In 2010, they sat Arizona legislatures down with the CCA to bring about what we know as the SB 170, which basically allows police to detain anyone that they think is an illegal immigrant and house them in CCA-owned prisons. All this money isn't going to rehabilitation or social programs. It's not even going to proper food and health care for the inmates and detainees. It's being used to expand the industry and increase profit, and what better way to do it than to run it like a revolving door. If I may quote Kanye West on his song New Slaves, meanwhile the DEA teamed up with the CCA. They trying to lock niggas up, they trying to make new slaves. See, that's that private-owned prison, come get your piece today. They probably all in the Hamptons bragging about what they made. It's no secret that our ever-expanding for-profit criminal justice system weighs heavier on poor minorities, more so African-American males, than any other group in America. It's been this way since Abe Lincoln penned the 13th Amendment, in which pretty much states that slavery is illegal, except if the laborers are inmates, then they're slaves to the state. So if you think about it, charging young African-American males with petty crimes so that they can perform labor for the state has been a thing since the South needed to be rebuilt after the Civil War. 1 in every 3 black males born today can expect to go to prison at some point in their life. By Nafo Osaki, 1 in 3 black males will go to prison in their lifetime, and is article for the Huffington Post. That is an alarming statistic, especially compared to the statistic that 1 in 17 white males can expect to be incarcerated in their lifetime. Racial Disparities in Criminal Justice by the ACLU. White people commit crimes and do drugs at the same rate as black people, yet the incarceration numbers don't reflect that. And no one questions it because the media has been successfully vilifying the black man since the release of A Birth of a Nation in 1915. In conclusion, the prison industrial complex is a $70 billion industry whose only goal is to ensure there's a constant influx of workers coming in and staying there. That's why they're stop and frisk laws, mandatory sentencing laws, 3 strikes, truth in sentencing laws, etc. It's the same reason Tupac said the war on drugs is a war on you and me. We have state governments in our great republic that care more about the bottom line than the over 2 million people they have in cages. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be held responsible for their actions, but for the safety of the public you claim to stand for, why isn't rehabilitation and threat neutralization held to a higher priority in this country? I'm going to end this with a quote by famous social activist Angela Davis. Homelessness, unemployment, drug addiction, mental illnesses, and illiteracy are only a few of the problems that disappear from public view when the human beings contending with them are relegated to cages.